Hello and welcome to another episode of the Full Force Weekly, brought to you by GeneralsJoes Reborn.com with me, Christopher McLeod AKA Diagnostic 80. For today's episode, I'm joined by the awesome Patrick Notpicard Stewart. In this regular video series, we round up all the week's news in the world of G.I. Joe. What is it, Pat?
It is the Full Force Weekly.
Very exact there. I like it.
Trying to vary it up.
Yeah, I like the variations help every now and again. I'm sure we'll come up with something new to do at some point on the intro before it stagnates too much. I do find that with my episodes, I have to do something different. Like the news burst has changed about 16 times. People would always moan at me. They were like, do you know, like I have to skip to about the 41-second mark for the news burst because the intros are just too long. And I'm like, all right, I get the point. So I minimized that. Probably going to have to do the same for the weeklies as well at some point. It'll just be like, it's me, it's Pat, let's do this. That's probably what it's going to be in the future. You cool with that?
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Good. I'll still find a place to put in, it's the Full Force Weekly.
You just get cut off before you finish. Straight into the news. What's first? I think I've got it a little bit as well. Like the way I consume media is very much like I need it quickly and I need to get through it quickly. I'm skipping through adverts and I don't want to see commercials for this or whatever, and like I've just everything has to be at such a rapid pace to consume it all. So it's nice every now and again to just kind of babble on and talk for a few hours.
Yeah, absolutely. I do the same thing. I'm not real good at I'm not real patient. I'm not a patient person, I don't think.
You and me both, mate. You and me both. Anyway, let's get to the bloody news. Said impatiently. What have we got first up then? Well, we've got some pretty cool news to talk about. We'll leave some of it to the end, but there's been some amazing news this week, including one of the most rapid Kickstarter campaigns of human history. But before we get into that, Pat, let's start with Eagle Force news. This is me changing it up. Last Monday morning, Fresh Monkey Fiction, the company behind the modern Eagle Force figures, revealed a number of new Big Bad Toy Store exclusives with a very familiar Palitoy Action Force Red Shadows vibe. Yes, they are releasing 2 new waves of product directly on BBTS with the intention of unlocking other figures in a similar way to a Kickstarter campaign. Within those 2 waves of 12 modern 4-inch figures are decos and designs that mimic the classic Baron Ironblood, Black Major and Red Shadows figures under their new Monster Force range. The Crimson Moon Commander, Count Iron Moon of the Apophis Legion, the Crimson Moon Legionnaire, aka Major Noir, and the Killer Warg, Crimson Moon Werewolf Trooper, all share decos and designs with the classic Palitoy Red Shadows team. The pre-orders for these exclusives are currently live on BBTS and will cost $26.99 each, or you can order the 2 full waves of 6 figures per wave, 12 figures in total, which include a number of new Eagle Force characters with some gold versions of classic characters for $159.99 per wave. The current estimated delivery is Q4 of 2022, and if you're interested in getting any of these, then check the links in the description below. Pat, bloody good time to be a Red Shadows fan, isn't it?
Yeah, and it feels long overdue.
It does, doesn't it? I feel like, I must admit, when I think about how long the modern era of kind of action figures and stuff have been going, for us not to have really fully touched on with obviously with respect to Red Laser in the figure subscription service. Did they do any more? I don't think they did any more Red Shadows in the modern era, did they?
I think that's it.
Obviously, there's the O-ring set, but in terms of modern era, hasn't really had that much kind of love. But now we're getting quite a lot of it. Obviously, there's another thing. There's an elephant in the room, which we'll get to later on. But all in good time. But this Eagle Force stuff, I do like the decos look really fresh. They look really cute on these bodies, and I think I like the fact they've kind of done the heads a little bit differently so that they're not completely doing a Baron Ironblood and a Black Major. They're kind of mixing up a bit so that you can maybe swap some stuff around when you get the figures.
Yeah, and I'm sure most of these are going to be, like if you find these on the secondary market, you're probably going to find that most of them have already been switched. I think that'll be what most people do with them.
Yeah, totally.
The whole werewolf angle of it is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I remember you messaged me not long ago saying something along the lines of, I see like American Werewolf in London and I see Thriller. And it was so true. Like I think it's the one that comes with Major Noir. It's got the grey streaks in it. It's so Thriller, isn't it?
Yeah, there definitely seem to be some other references in there. So, I mean, maybe that traditional Michael Jackson jacket would also work pretty well for the Red Shadows.
Oh my God. You've just created a new Red Shadows character, and it is Michael Jackson Thriller werewolf in red jacket. Oh my God, that's gonna have to happen, isn't it? Although does he have I don't think he has the red jacket as a werewolf, does he?
It doesn't matter. It's all Michael Jackson. Just mix it up if you need to.
I'm going to say it's like a letter jacket, isn't it? Like a college letter jacket they could do as well. But you're right. The red jacket would make so much sense with a red shadow. You couldn't even have Red Wolf though. You can't have that. You'd have to have something else. Blood Wolf. That can't have that either, as we'll find out later on. What I mean, in terms of the actual figures though, are you going to be picking any of these up?
I don't know. There's a lot of things right now that are kind of battling for my money. And so it's getting getting spread very thin. So I don't know when I will pick some of these up, but I'm sure I will at some point pick some up. How about yourself?
I'm probably going to get these again. Like that's in particular the Count, the Major, and the Moon Wolf, whatever I forget the full proper name, Killervorg or Killerwarg. I'm going to get those because I like the thought of having those figures in the modern era. Plus, Kate's done some amazing customs, including she's done a female Kraken, which is just outstanding. It's so good. And then obviously we've got friends in Just Ian Customs, Ian Lalonde, who did us some beautiful. He actually sent. I think I talked about this on a few weeklies back. He sent Kate a Baroness Ironblood custom, and it's just sensational. So to kind of homage Kate's original cosplay of the Baroness.
I don't think I've seen the female Kraken, have I?
Yeah, so I've come back here. First, I'll just show you the Baroness Ironblood, which is just fantastic, from Ian Lalonde of Just Ian Customs. Modern 4-inch. Basically, it's a modern 4-inch Caitlin McLeod, isn't it? Let's face it. Brilliant, and she's got removable hair, so you can pop the old helmet on. Look. Yeah,
that's really nice too. I like that.
Oh,
I like that mask.
He even sent us a cool Red Shadows figure stand. So it's stunning. I absolutely love this figure. I think it's so cool, so beautifully done, and that's Baroness Ironblood. And then of course, Kate has done this incredible female Kraken figure. Now,
yeah, I haven't seen that. That's cool.
Look at that. So obviously, I mean, isn't that amazing? She sculpted that entire hair piece at the back, or that kind of like fin piece that comes off the top of the head. All sculpted on what you might recognize head-wise is a Boss Fight Studio, one of the Gorgon heads. But then obviously she's sculpted different kind of like aspects onto it.
Yeah, the nose, I think.
Yep. And painted it and done the kind of bobbles in the head as well. Like it's just incredible. And then she's gone completely all out on this thing. It's just beautiful. And then obviously there's I think this is the Gladiator net that comes with the Gladiator set, but it works so well as the Kraken one. And then she made the weapon as well. Like she just made that using some sort of like pistol, and then I believe even molded those pieces too. Yeah, so very cool. Anyway, a bit of a sidebar, but he sent me a Baron Ironblood modern figure, which I should have picked up while I was over there, but I've shown that off in the past as well. Brilliant stuff. So I will probably be picking these up just to kind of like build out that that kind of like, and I might even use their Count Iron Moon not as Baron Ironblood, but like almost like a second, another like hierarchical kind of drop down from the Baron, just wearing like similar deco but having the different head sculpt. I think would be fun to have them both out like that. So that's because he's obviously got the bucket head on the one that Ian gave me. So I'm kind of down for getting to get those three figures. Really, I'm not going to go nuts and get tons of Red Shadows. mainly because it's just I just like having, you know, a few for display in that sense. And yeah, and I really like all the head sculpts they come with. They look really good. But anyway, that is Eagle Force BBTS exclusives. Again, big shout out to everyone at Eagle Force. Really enjoying that homage and think it's really fun, and I hope they do really well with it, and I hope they unlock some more stuff. And I haven't checked it for a while, and maybe they have unlocked some stuff, and maybe they've unlocked some more things.
How can you check that on Big Bad Toy Store?
Fresh Monkey Fiction website is where you can kind of view that at the moment. It used to be on the BBTS front page, but I can't see it on there anymore, so maybe it has changed. But yeah, you can definitely. So
there is a way of going all in, though, if you went on the BBTS website.
So if you order, what happens is it unlocks the figure when it gets to a certain amount that they've got the pre-orders for. So you're not doing like an all-in necessarily. You're just ordering. You're making your order no matter what it is, and then keeping an eye on the ticker. And then when one gets unlocked, you then have the opportunity to buy that as an extra add-on. If that makes sense. It's not even an add-on because it's not a Kickstarter, if you know what I mean. You're just pre-ordering, and then when they hit a certain amount of pre-orders, they unlock another figure, and then that just means that you can get that figure, you know, again.
Okay.
I don't believe there's an all-in thing though, because I have not seen that.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't like that. That's a set way necessarily. I don't think that a thing has to work. So I just wasn't certain how it was going to work, since it was sort of a Kickstarter feel, but not on Kickstarter.
Yeah. Also, I think
trying to be clear,
we've only just got used to how Kickstarter operates, because there are so many. It's like American football rules. Like there are so many variables, isn't it? You know, like something comes along, and then it's like you're kind of making progress in what you think is the correct thing that's working. And then the variable comes in and changes the mix a little bit. And that's kind of what is happening. That kind of happens with Kickstarter. But I think a lot of people are attuned, who have been, you know, purchasing on Kickstarter. They're attuned to a certain way of doing things. So when it's just a simple thing of like, you just put an order in, and then guess what? If they reach a certain amount, then a figure gets unlocked. And it's not like you've got that figure in your all-in because you've just bought that first wave. That's what I assume, though, because it's not clear. On BBTS.
I can see why you wouldn't want to work it that way, though, because as a small company, as things get unlocked, all of your previous customers get additional stuff is kind of an expensive possibility. So, I mean, I guess you need to crunch the numbers and work it out, but it almost becomes a little unpredictable, Kickstarter. So
yeah.
I could see why that they would run it so that they just unlock, once they have enough funding, they unlock the ability to do a little more tooling or whatever they may need in order to make additional characters. I can see why they do that.
Absolutely. Well, that is the Eagle Force BBTS news, and moving on to the next news item, and that's in Super7 news. The FWOOSH posted an interview with Brian Flynn of Super7 earlier in the week that might just have revealed who we could be seeing in the next wave of G.I. Joe Ultimates. The head honcho of the company was discussing a number of updates with their lines and the current issues regarding shipping with Veebs, not Phoebes, not to be confused with my dog, from the FWOOSHCAST, and inadvertently let slip that both Scarlet and the Baroness were coming in the next Ultimates lineup. It was in reference to the way that female figures are scrutinised within the fan communities far more than the males, and when discussing the changes they had made to Chitara from the Ultimates Thundercats line, he mentioned that we spent a lot of time on this, on Baroness and Scarlet in the G.I. Joe line, of like exactly how we do all that construction. So once we build that construction, we have a template to use for the others. Did I just say Baroness and we haven't announced that yet? Laughter ensued, but Brian did also say, not that anybody didn't guess that was coming. So it's pretty clear that we can probably expect both Scarlet and the Baroness in the next wave of Ultimates product, and now we can speculate on the other two characters in that wave. Or it could be that they're coming in multiple waves in the future, so maybe we can work a little bit of magic here, Pat, but what do you expect? Say, for argument's sake, if Baroness and Scarlet are in the next wave, who do you think would be a nice pairing to go with those two kind of, I would say, very core main characters?
Well, I always tend to try to figure out things based on what has already been done, and we only have one wave of Ultimates to kind of go from. I would say in the first wave of Ultimates, the surprise was the Bat.
Yep.
So it kind of seemed like you had, of a wave of 4, you had 2 Joe and 2 Cobra. 3 of them were very expected characters to see, and one of them was something of a surprise, just because it's a figure that we would eventually hope to get, but I normally would expect to get the Bat sometime later. Normally I would expect to get Cobra Troopers and stuff like that first. Absolutely. So I don't know if Baroness and Scarlet would necessarily be in the same wave, or if they would just be developing them together.
It does make sense to develop them together if they're sharing the same body parts and stuff like that. So I completely understand what he's getting at there, and what people have commented on. Where I was saying the next wave, I really should have said for future Ultimate kind of releases. But yeah, I agree with you. I imagine that we'd have one of those 2 in the next wave, and then maybe Scarlet or Baroness in a third wave as well following that. Let's say, like I said, for argument's sake, what would you throw in 2 other characters in that mix that you'd kind of almost expect to see? You're gonna say Roadblock?
Well, you know what? I kind of was. I think that the obvious ones may be Roadblock and Storm Shadow, but I don't think that they're going to do that. I think that the Ultimates is going to actually give us some things with a little bit of randomness as far as the expected order, because that Bat, I think that you just can't ignore that. So it's kind of a tough question, because now instead of the easy answers of all of the top tier figures, we're looking at something later. I would expect it to be from Sunbow, though.
Yeah, because of course.
That causes me to think, well, maybe I should be looking at
changing your core a little bit. Yeah, like
right. and looking at Cobra army builders that would be popular. And I think that one of the later army builders that really is super popular is the Alley Viper. But are we going to get into deep episodes?
I doubt it.
I doubt it too.
Not yet, anyway. Not yet.
Right.
I think I could expect them doing like a special edition Deke. I'm saying it the way you say it, but we say Dick in this country, in the United Kingdom. I say in this country, standing on American soil. But yeah, I personally, I think we're going to see. I think they might throw in Shipwreck, because I think Shipwreck is one of those characters from the cartoon that is almost more iconic than the brand in people's view of the cartoon. When they think of the cartoon, I often think of Shipwreck more so than a lot of characters. But then obviously you've got other, I'm not saying he's the one. I'm just saying in terms of like a casual, he's one that would like catch your attention and probably be burned into your memory just due to the fact that he's a sailor on land, with the white hat, the beard, the John Wayne kind of, delivery, the very, very kind of old school sailor looking, and with Polly. I could just see that being very appealing as well to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that whenever you're looking at the G.I. Joe cartoon, whenever you're looking at G.I. Joe in any media, there's going to be like one of the characters that stands out a little bit more in that than in other things. And that's especially true of the Sunbow cartoon. There's definitely some characters that just felt like the definitive version of them comes from the cartoon, and the definitive version comes from the comic. Like Snake Eyes is a comic book character. Shipwreck is a cartoon character.
I thought you were gonna say Snake Eyes' definitive version came in this particular issue where Snake Eyes is wearing the.
Whenever you mean like in 1989.
Brilliant.
Whenever everything came together in the comic book.
Yeah, I think it was a few issues after that, personally, Pat. But and I'm not talking Ninja Force. Anyway, I love that we've got this Snake Eyes feud on every episode. It always comes up, and we always like end up like hating each other for our choices. It's really funny, I think.
Yeah, but in private conversation, you've admitted that it's 1989. Snake Eyes.
He's lying.
I think that he did. There was some sort of reference the other day.
Look, he's got his cheeky smile on. When he lies, he's got a cheeky smile on. That's Pat. He's lying. Yeah, I do like that version. I just think version 4 is 1,000 times better.
Oh, come on.
I do. I love that version.
Where does he put his swords?
Yeah, but up his bum.
He needs to use the grappling hook or the gun. He has 2 swords. They don't fit in his backpack. He's just got to lay them down.
He's cool. He just throws them up in the air, uses it, and then catches them like once he's used it. He's a ninja. I just think right. Okay, we're going to have this conversation on a new episode that's coming soon called The Full. This is the big reveal happening now in the middle of a random weekly, but we're going to be doing a show called The Full Force Monthly. Now, as you can guess, it homages the Action Force Monthly, and just like the weekly homages the Action Force Weekly, the Action Force Monthly is going to be once a month, and it's going to be more of a long-form audio podcast, but it will have a video element attached to it. I just won't do as much editing. So one of those topics is me and Pat, and I think we're going to get a few other people on as well, talking about our best versions of characters and, like basically putting them up for kind of like almost like a little vote. But effectively, that's what we're going to do for one of those episodes. So so we will get to the bottom of mine and Pat's hatred for one another's Snake Eyes choices. But I think a lot of it has to do, spoiler alert, with the episode that's coming out eventually, with the fact that it's when you're born, and it's what particular character version is like strongest for you at a certain point in your interaction with the brand. And honestly, that was at the peak of my G.I. Joe love, was that period of time. And and I just think it just hit on all the right notes for me. But we'll get to that in Action Force Monthly. I'm not even going to give you an opportunity to respond to that. So I'm getting the advantage going into the episode.
I don't have to respond. We know how you feel. It's 1989 Snake Eyes.
Okay.
There's no need for a response.
Coming back to Super 7, I think Shipwreck's in there, and I also think Cobra Trooper's a good shout. And I also think, there's so many characters. This is the thing with the cartoon; it's just as difficult to pick out of a hat the ones that show up the most, because at certain periods of time, certain characters disappear that have been in it loads, and other characters take that kind of mantle. Like Flint and Lady J are really prominent. Also, I would say Barbecue's really prominent at a certain period of time in there, and Gung Ho is really prevalent early on. It's just kind of Beachhead is another one. When Beachhead came out, he was in loads of the episodes. So there's tons they could do, and I think they wouldn't really be making a misstep. I think they're in a good position here where they. Like with 4 characters a wave, you're going to be getting some pretty decent ones, and each time you'll be getting some cool stuff. Yeah,
it may just be like 4 characters a wave. I really do hope that we stick through and get a lot of them. Like Brian Flynn was saying, that he has things planned out for how many years was he saying that
10.
He kind of has 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of years, but it's nice. They're a little higher end figures, and I will be happy to have them spread out.
Totally. But again, I think they're in a win-win position with characters. I think they can't really go wrong with whatever they bring out. If they go a little bit too obscure, that might, but then you're really going to be pleasing a lot of fans, because I know I'd love the more obscure kind of things in there, like. That giant Conan the Barbarian guy in the first episode.
Or like Sparks. I mean, I kind of wonder what kind of opportunity there's going to be for them to create a character that has not been that really wasn't released in the vintage line.
All the admirals and all the different generals and all those kind of characters that only appeared in that arena.
Yeah, but part of me also wonders though, how well would that sell? If it was a character that was in the show, how well would it sell? Obviously, like an Ultimates Pythona, I think would be popular. Yeah, so some of them I think they could release and would sell. Big Lob, yeah, I think that Big Lob could do well.
What they have to do there is they have to balance the wave, don't they? They'd have to have like some pretty solid ones in there so that people would go for the whole wave and pick it up that way. I agree with you though. I think they'd have to make some decisions on what is like proper peripheral, but you never know. Could be in a position like Mattel were with their Master of the Universe classics, where they managed to create They managed to make characters up because they'd run out of characters, or they were like sifting through the mini comics and like, you know, everyone got a figure almost. I think it was one of the most comprehensive toy lines I think that ever been created for a brand.
For sure, yeah. There's a lot of stuff. I've seen the lists that people have of stuff that wasn't made for Masters Universe Classics, and it's a very narrow number of things, and all of it is super, super obscure. But
it's like smoke I think, that was in the background of one episode. You know, like it's things like that.
And like one of the guys from one of the live shows that sings or something.
Exactly. You're talking about like really scraping the media barrel there, aren't you?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I also look at some of the other things that Super 7 has done in their Ultimates. And with Transformers, like they were dipping right away into Action Masters.
Yep.
So maybe that makes sense for the fact that they're doing non-transforming Transformers to go there right away, but they didn't seem to be afraid to do something that's really obscure, and it sold well, I think. So maybe we could see some really crazy stuff.
Did they do any Pretenders yet?
Yeah, they have Bludgeon is in the...
that was it. That's who I was trying to think of was revealed, yeah. Yeah, so again, we could be seeing a lot of obscure stuff in that, but still, you know... really, I've got to admit, this is one of the lines G.I. Joe related that I'm really excited about, and I can't wait to see more. I think Super 7 have done a great job on that first 4 figures. I think there's some beautiful stuff in there. The bats are real, you know. Dr. Mindbender, there's another one who is in the cartoon a lot past a certain point, and he almost became one of the go-to villains in the cartoon at that point. So, you know, and you could just imagine, you know, the DNA extractor in terms of accessories, you know, or like just tons of cool stuff with a figure like that. So really excited, really excited for Super 7. Any characters that I know you're not a massive cartoon fan, but are there any characters you'd like to see in the Ultimates, Pat?
I kind of wonder if they could ever go larger and make some of the crazy Cobra robots or anything like that.
They've got the license to do so, haven't they? I wonder if that would be a thing.
I think so. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really not sure who I would most like to see from the cartoon. Probably Serpentor would be one of the ones that I'd really like to see how they would handle an Ultimate Serpentor. And Globulus, obviously, he'd be a big one.
So good again.
Yeah, and you know who else we haven't mentioned that is definitely more developed in the cartoon, but will be kind of a difficult one to do is Slaughter.
Yeah.
A cartoon Sergeant Slaughter. He's certainly, as far as G.I. Joe goes, yeah, he was in the comic book, but much like Shipwreck is a cartoon character, Slaughter is a cartoon character as
Absolutely. That would be amazing. I would love that. His design's so cool in the G.I. Joe line as well. His body is huge. Like, he's just this, you know, huge. I mean, he's nothing like that really in reality. But the way they made him in the cartoon was absolutely perfect. And yeah, I'd love to see it. Perfect! I use that quote from the movie. Anyway, yeah, that is Super 7 news. And I'm just going to throw in Lightfoot because, you know, I do every single time. Never going to happen. Didn't even show up in the cartoon because everyone hates him. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well, he probably had an animated introduction, right, from Sunbow, where they made the commercials.
I think he's in one of the commercials where there's a vehicle, and he's in it. He's in one of it's one of those rotoscope type jobs. I think. I don't think it's like full on sexy animation. Anyway, enough of that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Next up, then. Breaking news has typically happened during the recording, so we are kind of tagging this into the news at some point. But basically, a message has gone out by the G.I. Joe War of Cobra team to say the following. We regret to announce that on December 10th, 2021, the G.I. Joe War on Cobra servers will be shut down and the game will no longer be playable. The entire team wants to thank all of you for joining in the fight. Visit our FAQs for details. Quite interesting story there, Pat, that's just kind of dropped on our laps at the last second. Thankfully, we talked for ages after this, so we didn't miss it. But what do you think of that? I mean, obviously it wasn't a very successful platform for them in the end because they're having to shut it down very early.
Is it early? I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know what the lifespan is of games like this. I think that anytime you're downloading a game on your phone to play it on a server, through your phone, it's something that's eventually going to get shut down. I think that it would be great if every game ever made could always keep their servers up. But that's just not the way the world works anymore. So it's a shame, but I don't know. I don't know how long we really should have expected this game to have been active. And I say that meaning I don't know.
Yeah.
If somebody else has some information and knows the rough lifespan of a video game like this, one for mobile, because I think mobile is different still than console. I'd be curious to know.
I mean, totally, and I have to agree. There's a couple of things about this. Obviously, they recently upgraded to a 2.0 version, which I probably jumped on for like a day, I think, to kind of check it out. And there was some improvements. There was they'd removed like the map that they had previously, and they'd done a lot of different things in there. It's effectively still the same game. But I think as much as there was a lot of fun there, I think the problem with a lot of these games, right, one, I totally understand that they need to make money from it. Otherwise, they're pumping all of this like resources into these games to not actually have any income for it is bonkers. So either you set a price for something like this and you pay it outright, or in what they've done here is they make it free to download, and then you have microtransactions within it to, increase through the game or progress through the game at a bit more pace. And there's a balance there, isn't there? I think of kind of like getting that balance right. And I think I've never really been one for microtransactions. I'm not a big fan of putting a lot of money in those kind of things, just because I think they're little time fillers for me. They're not big things of like, I'm going to spend, loads of money on this and it's going to be my concentration is going to be there forever. Even the best games don't do that for me. Like some of the most amazing games I've ever played have taken me years to complete because I want to make the most out of my investment into it, which is like a monetary one followed by a time investment. So I think there's a balance that you struggle to kind of get with a game like this, and it's niche anyway with G.I. Joe. There's a small fandom in comparatively with other things that happen in the universe. It's a big deal for us, but not necessarily to your average Joe. So your average Joe bruh. So, I think they were in a difficult situation anyway, doing it that way. And for it to be I got to a point and I couldn't go any further with it without paying money. And I think that was one of the main issues I had with it personally.
Yeah, I think that the microtransaction thing is something also that I have never really wanted to dive entirely into. But I don't think that in the history of video games, it's as new as people pretend that it is.
It's not. No.
Well, isn't that how video games really got their footing to begin with? Because how different is it to be playing a game on your phone that you're constantly tossing $1 or $2 into now than it was to be playing Pac-Man in an arcade back in the 80s, pumping quarters in.
Exactly.
Those were microtransactions.
Well, depends how many you had. I think
that's how that happens with this too.
Yeah.
I mean, those dollars add up, and so did those quarters. I can remember being a kid, and you'd see some other older kid with like a $20 bill, and that thing was magic if you were inside. Like
$20 was $1 million. It might as well have been $1 million. $20.
That's right. Yeah.
For us, if it was
he's going to play for hours. Like, how does he get to?
Exactly.
I was happy with $1. Really.
Yeah. We had pound coins, right? And we didn't have kind of
quarters,
paper money. We had 5, 10, 20, 50, and a pound. So we had 5 pence. Well, we had 1 and 2p as well. So we had 1 pence, which is 1 cent. 2 pence, which would have been, I'm saying they're not equivalent because obviously they're different. They're
but physically in
terms of coinage we're talking about here. 5 pence, a little 5p piece, which were big, and then they made them tinier. They made them much smaller to differentiate them from 10p's, which were slightly bigger, 20p, which was then smaller than a 10p, 50p, which was bigger than all of them, and then £1, which was smaller again. So it was like up, down, down, down. So it was all over the place. But we also, in terms of paper money, we had 10, 20, 50, and I don't think you saw any. You didn't really see 50s, honestly, and you didn't really see anything bigger than that. But 10s and 20s. But that, if you saw a £20 note, it was like, well, that's my life. I'm sorted. Don't have to do anything ever again. As a child, that is how much 20 quid can mean to a child. But like, obviously now it's, forget it. Like, money has no meaning to anybody now. Like but I just remember back then it was like, if someone had a £20 note, it was like, well, that must be the president of the universe.
Yeah.
That must be the prime minister of the universe, right? And like arcades, you're right. Yeah, like it was, but you know, we'd have whatever change we had would go in there, just pump that stuff away for hours.
Would you ever go to a standalone arcade, or was it just kind of like a machine in a store?
We didn't really have that in stores. We not where I was anyway. So in the little seaside town I grew up in Munsley, we had an amusement arcade on the seafront. So right on the kind of cliff in the centre of Munsley, there was this kind of big, fun, like, you know, arcade full of computer games, and then on the other side there was a fish and chips, and you know, you could just buy. So you could buy chips for like, you know, $2.50, have chips and you know, as in, you know, thick fries. Dipping them in ketchup in your little plastic tray. Very seaside, very British seaside. And then you could pump, you know, thousands of quid into Street Fighter 2, the Turtles game, the Simpsons game. What else do we have there? You know, all of Operation Wolf. Yeah, I think, you know, all the classics really were in there. But I remember when Street Fighter 2 came in, that was one of the most popular machines there. That must have made them millions. Yeah. Honestly.
Yeah, we had some standalone arcades when I was in college. I remember playing Mortal Kombat 3. But for the most part, playing video games, like a stand-up arcade game, would have been in the front of like Hills department store. They were always good at getting all the new games in front of Hills. And then in the mall, there would have been arcades there. And I remember playing pretty much any game you wanted if you were in the mall, because they'd have Dragon's Lair. They had all of them. And then if you were really lucky, somebody had a birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese, and there were a bunch of games there.
Oh, Chuck E.
But
Cheese.
This is very similar. It's almost like maybe the game is not making money anymore, and it's time to take it out of the arcade and put something else in. That's kind of what I was getting around to comparing this to, as far as the old comparison to arcade machines. You know, occasionally that thing gets pulled out. It's hard to go out now and play the arcade stand-up of G.I. Joe. I'd like to think whenever games like this go away, it would be nice to have it have some sort of send-off where you could have an at-home version just for historical purposes, because a lot of people dig deep into the old history of video games, and these ones are going to be almost impossible to dig into 20 years.
Totally. I think it's quite a shame. I think obviously, you know, it's not the first time a G.I. Joe game has come to a close on mobile. I think the Strike is still on there, which is like one of the most basic games ever. But obviously there's not much to that. It's, you know, it's there and it probably can stay there forever because it's not taking up any real, like, you know, thought process. But there's a lot that goes into this kind of War on Cobra kind of game where it's storing information that you're building up and like all these different things, these bases you're creating and building. So I imagine that, you know, they just, you know, it's obviously not as popular as they wanted it to be. Obviously, they did this revamp around Yojo June, where they explained that they were going to be re-releasing a 2.0 version. That clearly hasn't had the effect that they wanted it to, and you know, we're at this position now where they're gonna cut it off. But we're in a similar position as we were when Battlegrounds was cancelled. I liked that game really for the artwork. I didn't really vibe with the structure of how it played. It was a bit of a clunky old thing, and I found it really difficult to, again, it was one where you needed microtransactions to really get it working. And I think unless you're making I think that what they need to do really with G.I. Joe is focus on this AAA computer game. I think if they can do something along the lines of, like a much higher end game, the popularity could spill out of that for a similar mobile kind of game where, that popularity continues into getting on your phone or doing something slightly different on the phone but related to it. It's, again, I like the other thing is, like, we all like collecting characters. Like, that's what we like doing. We like collecting artwork, character, different characters they bring out in the game. It was so hard to actually get a new character that they brought out. It was like, okay, so we've got CoverGirl this like the next 2 weeks, and you're like, okay, cool. Play it for a little while, build up your, all your stores and everything, or your whatever you were building up, diamonds and oil. And then once you got all that, it was like, right, I can now buy a pack or like open a thingy, like a chest, and it would be like, you get this, you get this, you get this, you get this, still no CoverGirl. I'm like, okay, so then you start the process again. I could only do that twice in the time that character was out, like without paying extortionate amounts of money to open more of those things. So it made it so difficult to actually collect the characters that I lost interest, because I didn't have this character that came out, and I didn't have that character that came out, and I wanted that one, and I missed that one. And then it's not even that thing where you open a set and you'd be like surprised, like all of a sudden, I've got that character and that I don't have that one. You're just like building up the ones you already have, and then like you've got one character that you're not that not that fussed about, which is one of your highest rated, because you keep getting like upgrades to kind of make them better. And then the next one you get is like way down the pecking order, but you want to use that character. But if you want to beat the little battle, you can't really use them until they're built up. So there's a lot of waiting, there's a lot of patience involved, and I think that's where it kind of slipped up a little bit. I think if they'd have made getting the characters a little bit easier and building your teams, I think that would have been, getting that balance right was important. So, oh well, c'est la vie. War on Cobra is no more.
Yeah, I will say it again. I think that the game that would really draw me in would be just more levels and more characters for the old NES game. That's what I like.
I'd love a bit of vintage on there. It'd be so much fun, wouldn't it? So cute as well, and it works well in that in that kind of setting. Because again, if you've got an emulator on a cinema screen television and you put a vintage game on, it's like, oh, I can see every pixel ever that's in this. But like, if you've got it on your little phone as a mobile game, it's hours of fun. It's like playing a Game Boy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, sad. We always end up talking about something that's completely unrelated. Well, it's not unrelated, but it's always not the topic. And I love that about this show. I love that we go on these massive tangents, and then I end up giving you like loads of information you never thought you'd ever hear.
Admitting like 89 Snake Eyes is the best. Am I running it into the ground?
No. That's going to be the running gag is 89 Snake Eyes, because he is a gag. Anyway, and this is the news that's been terrorizing the week and then absolutely destroying the Thursday and Friday of its inception, and that is Roboskull Mark II news. What a week. We had a few reveals on the lead up to Thursday's Kickstarter campaign, but let's face it, the biggest story was that insane first day. The initial funding goal was smashed within the first few hours of the project's reveal, and every stretch goal was reached inside 21 hours. We posted an exclusive interview with Mark O'Byrne from the Skeletron toy company on the day, and we spoke to both Ben and Mark yesterday. Incredibly enough, during the time that I've spoken to these guys, the actual pledge level has been destroyed and is at now, as we record this on a Friday, 205,550. Unreal. Check out those interviews for more details regarding the actual project. It still has 29 days left, and we've already done all the stretch goals. Pat, how amazing was that first day?
A friend of mine called while I was sleeping because I was not awake whenever it first launched. I wasn't sure when it was going to first launch. And he called and said, hey, you better get in on this. It's selling fast. And I woke up and I missed the first all-in level. So it's crazy how fast this thing has funded. It was a little unpredictable because obviously this is a project that would appeal to G.I. Joe fans, and there haven't been a lot of Kickstarters for vehicles that are specific to G.I. Joe fans.
Yeah.
So I kind of wondered how it would do, but I was confident that it would, that it would fund. But now I'm looking at it and wondering, like, I can't quite get a grip of what exactly went on here. I expected the Roboskull to be popular, but I would really like to have a better understanding of the other people out there in my hobby. And yeah, I think everybody loves the Roboskull. A vintage Roboskull is hard to find and sells fast and isn't cheap. So that's an indicator that there's going to be some interest as well in the new one. But, what exactly happened here? Are we stretching out maybe beyond the G.I. Joe community?
You think into maybe kind of Star Wars kind of peeps, do you reckon?
It could be Star Wars. It could be the 6-inch crowd, because whenever G.I. Joe went 6-inch, it kind of brought in some people to G.I. Joe that were just really big fans of 6-inch figures. And since this does both 3 3/4 and 6-inch, I think it could be purchased and used as a centerpiece for one of either of those collections.
Totally. I also, and there was a few comments early on when the scale was revealed as, multiple scale, dual scale, well, not dual, multiple scale. And they said things like, does the 6-inch, does it make them look too small? Is it like a small vehicle? Does the 6-inch, do they kind of dwarf it a little bit? And with the 4-inch figures, do they look tiny, and does it look a bit silly? Neither of those things are the case. And with some of the images that they've been posting as well, and that we've been sharing too, I mean, the 6-inch figure, it almost looks perfect, the perfect size. Like, you'd expect a Roboskull reality to be that size for, for a person to sit in that cockpit. And even standing next to the vehicle, it kind of has a similar scaling to the original Roboskull and the 5-point of articulation figures. Like, it looks very similar with a 6-inch figure standing next to this new one, because it's so big. This thing is a big vehicle too. That's another thing that I think not many people are really grasping. I think when they look at the images, they're basically seeing it with an idea, knowing what the Roboskull size is. But this Mark II is very much a much larger vehicle. And there's a picture on the actual Kickstarter of Ben holding it, and it is just dwarfing him. The wingspan is out at full stretch and looks incredible. Articulated wings, ports for different, for other, little things to pop on there. Blast effects. There's like additional elements of the prisoner transport. How cool is that prisoner transport for the 4-inch figures? And then obviously it acts as a Skeledrones container for the 6-inch figures. So it's just remarkable. And I think what they've done here design-wise is unreal. I know I've had input throughout this entire process as well. Like, I've been there when they've been saying, this is the first round of concepts, let's get some feedback and let's do meetings and let's talk about this and talk. So there's been a lot of input as we've gone through this. So I've seen it where it started from, and I've seen it to where it is now. And in that moment, at that time, I didn't realize just how badass it had gotten until other people are saying, like, oh my God, this thing is incredible. You forget because you've been looking at it so long, And I think what they've managed to do design-wise is just outstanding.
Yeah, I think that it's one that the speed and the recognition that the Kickstarter is getting, it will definitely turn some heads and get some more attention. Especially Kickstarters have a tendency to have a big impact at the beginning and in the last 24 hours. But at the same time, I do think that it could be one of those things that as it shows up at conventions, people go, where did that thing come from? It's going to be one of the things that continues to stand out once it is physically out and among collections. I also think in terms of looking at the scale, the reason why it really does still work for 6-inch is because not too many vehicles really are a 2-seater. A single seat vehicle is pretty common, and it's large compared to a 6-inch figure. And, it's not like the Roboskull is a real life thing that you could say, well, in real life, the Roboskull is this big. So in comparison, this is what it should be. I think that it works well for 6-inch and for 3 3/4, which for me, in my collection, even though I've been buying the 6-inch stuff, it's going to be for the 3 3/4 guys.
Well, that's something I wanted to mention as well. Like in terms of the 4-inch figures, they look great with this, and it's so imposing. And yes, it's a much bigger vehicle for a 4-inch figure, but I'd much rather have space for 2 figures, more, decent space for 2 figures, rather than have them crushed in there, like almost as an afterthought. Like let's stick another figure in there, kind of thing. So I think that there's, that you've got that space within this particular vehicle for them to comfortably operate in 2 different areas of the vehicle.
Well, the way that it functions is you actually change out the seats inside, correct?
Yeah, you just
so it isn't like you just throw the figure in there and it's rattling around.
Exactly.
In a seat large enough for a 6-inch figure.
Yeah, that's the other beauty part as well. Like the seat setup is really cool, and each seat has ball jointed, articulated little levers, so they can hold on to those as a 4-inch or a 6-inch figure. And obviously by doing that, it won't rattle at all. It's pinned into that seat because it's holding the handles. So there's a real thought there of without having a big peg thing sticking out for a back kind of port. It's more more practical. It makes a lot more sense. And it's just, there's an image there of, I think, Destro sitting in the cockpit, and it's just perfection. And then obviously the 4-inch figures, they look great too. Loads of space in there, but the display inside, all these computers and all these screens and all these it's just awesome. Amazing work that again, Mark, Alex, Dave, Ben, all of those guys did on the kind of design side. It's just fantastic stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm still absorbing all the details of it because I did pledge, and there's still images that I'm not sure that I've seen.
They've also revealed, I think while we've been on this chat, they've revealed a 5-pack of the 6-inch figures, like a wolf pack of the 6-inch. So they've got 4 and 6-inch wolf pack options now. Which is incredible. So they've unlocked those. Images of the O-ring figure, of course, an image of the O-ring figure, which looks really neat. That's another aspect that's really neat. Doing O-ring stuff with Grindstone, that's got to cheer you up no end.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to seeing that stuff in person as well. Once we get more into that, for sure. Yes, excited for that stuff.
And I must admit, I do like the kind of more futuristic vibe of the figure, but he does it almost looks very much like similar design style to an Astro Viper or something. There's that kind of nice connective tissue with the O-ring, where even though it's designed completely different to a lot of the figures, it's going to fit in with your vintage lineup, I think, perfectly.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they've done the head as a helmet or if it is a part of the torso.
Well, I guess we'll have to find that one out, won't we, Pat, in the future. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there's another... Everyone watching this is going, Chris already knows this stuff. They already know this stuff, and they're just pretending. And to a degree, you are right. But we can't just say the stuff before it's officially revealed. But,
not me. I didn't know about the Roboskull until really late in the game, and I don't know whether or not. I would assume that's a helmet.
Pat's going to assume that's a helmet. I'm not going to say anything on the matter until we get some sort of official stance on the whole thing. But yeah, good speculation there, Pat. It could very well be a helmet. But what on earth would be underneath, do you think?
I don't know.
You'll just have to find out, guys. You have to wait and find out because we can't say anything. But yeah, there is a possibility that could be the case. I'm not saying any more than that because I don't want to get in any more trouble than I clearly already have probably put myself in. But yes, really excited. There's so much more to come. I'm very buzzy about this whole project. And probably more. I'm probably buzzy about it even more so because it's at 206,198 currently. It's gone up another. Okay, I recorded with the guys prior to coming on with Pat. We put that episode up yesterday, and at that point, we finished the episode, and Mark's like, it just ticked over to 200,000. In the hour since that I've been talking to Pat, it has gone up $6,000, close to 7. So
where's the audience for this coming from? Like, I really am just genuinely curious, not complaining, but is this all G.I. Joe fans, or do you think that there is something else? Are we missing some key element here?
I think it has struck a chord within the community. That's what I think has happened. I think it's struck a visual chord with the people attached and associated with it. Marauder, Grindstone, Alex Wu,
right.
Dave Proctor, the Full Force podcast, Patrick Notpicard Stewart, Caitlin McLeod, etc., etc. With all those people that are kind of attached to it, Bob Breakin, who I always forget to mention because he's so forgettable. I didn't mean that, Bob. That's just me being stupid and an idiot. Obviously, Bob Breakin brings a lot to this. Ian Kennedy on packaging art. There is so many people involved in this that you would put your trust in, I guess. So I think there's that almost, like sometimes you'll look at like a campaign of some description. It might be a newcomer, which is what Skeletron are technically. It might be someone that's done it but hasn't had anything delivered previously. There's always a bit of trepidation for me sometimes about pressing that pledge button. Even if I'm 100% into it, I have to look at a lot of factors, and I kind of think about, can we fully get on board with this? And usually I end up going in anyway. But in this case, I think maybe some of that like concern or worry kind of has been brushed aside a little bit, and people are just excited to get involved with it. What would you think that's a possibility? Yeah,
that is a possibility. Because sometimes when something big happens, you just want to be a part of the action. I think, like I said, though, this is going to turn some heads once it's physically in hand. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. The finish on it looks really great, too. I kind of like how the skull portion, obviously the entire thing is pretty much a skull. But the skull portion, like the face of it.
The exposed part, yeah.
Yeah, looks a little bit different than the very shiny top. Kind of like the way that looks.
Yeah, they put a really nice kind of dark wash on the actual kind of the skull element, which is brilliant.
A lot of the features of the original Roboskull kind of represented and amped up. I enjoy this thing.
Yeah, it's cranked up to 11, isn't it? And of course the Mohawk, which I'd be remiss not to mention because that's my favourite part of it. The fact that that's the cockpit that opens up is just genius, and the fact that the Mohawk itself lends you to having more space for the pilots is even more genius. So you can thank me for pushing the Mohawk, guys, in a massive way.
I really like the prisoner transport. I wonder what the odds are of, or what the chances are of getting a second one of those.
Like the Nintendo cartridge, I call it. It's amazing because it slots in there like a Nintendo cartridge. What you want to get a separate prisoner transport? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think it's a neat thing.
It's very cool, isn't it? I love the little stand that it comes with, a little kind of like jet of air plastic stand. Yeah, it's very, very neat. I'm all about that. And anyway, well, okay. Well, guys, if you haven't pledged yet and you want to, links in the description as always. So check that out and jump on board. We really desperately need you to put more money into this. Right now, I'm just really happy for Ben and the team. Really happy that they've kind of done, that the whole collaborative group, what they've achieved here is pretty special, and it's being shown that it's pretty special just in the numbers alone. So massive shout out to everyone involved. Really happy for everybody. And at this point, it's really just a case of what cool other things can they, throw in there for stretch goals. And trust me, there are more things coming. There are more reveals coming. And, I'm going to keep playing dumb the entire time until...
So you think they are adding stretch goals then, is what you're saying?
Oh, they definitely are. I mean, it even says on the actual Kickstarter page, more stretch goals to come. So I can actually say that. I can reveal very, unexclusively that stretch goal 7 will unlock at 246,000, and it is to be announced. So the way things are going, they might have to announce that tonight, but we'll see. Honestly, at the moment, I think everyone, the whole team is just happy with where it is right now, honestly. Obviously we want more, we want to do more with it, but seriously, how could you not be happy with 206,235 as it stands right now? big shout out to all almost 500 of you who have jumped in on this. Well done, guys. You are making a brilliant decision here. Anyway, anything to add, Pat? Sorry, before I cut you off.
No. I just agree that this is a good one to get in on. I think that even if you were speculating and thinking you may want to have some to resell later, it's a solid purchase. Oh,
and also you get the choice of what deco you want, and if you get the Kickstarter exclusive deco majoritively, then you're probably going to be in the money when it comes into the secondary market. Not that I like to push that kind of thing. Generally, I tend to like, what I want to get in these things early, and then have it. I'm not a kind of person that tends to sell really, so I don't really look at it like that. But if any people want to maybe offset some costs, that is an option, and that's something that a lot of people would do during JoeCon, isn't it, Pat? Like with getting multiple sets with their golden ticket and then selling them to kind of offset some of those costs in going to the actual convention. So you could look at it in that way, a slightly less scalperish way to look at it, I guess.
Well, I'm also just looking at it from the sense of once the Kickstarter's over, the Kickstarter exclusive's not going to be being made.
Yeah.
And I really do. I just have a feeling that when these things show up at a convention, people are going to be curious where they came from. So in this case, speculating and buying another one is actually getting another one made and making one available for somebody.
Very good point. Cool. Well, that is the Roboskull Mark II news. Obviously, there's probably more that's happened in the time that, this goes out, because obviously we have to record the day in advance. So at the moment, it's gone up again. 206745. I've never known anything like this in my life. No, I mean, yesterday I expected a boosting kind of day, but it is just non-stop, and it's rocketing up still on Friday. So great work to everyone involved. Unreal. Anyway, okay, so lastly, in terms of the news, and unfortunately we're going to be ending on a bit of a sad note in some really kind of devastating news, honestly. On Monday, we reported that Hasbro's CEO Brian Goldner had taken a medical leave of absence to undergo treatment for prostate cancer, which he had been battling since 2014. Unfortunately, just a few days later, he sadly passed away at the remarkably young age of 58. News broke from a number of sources after Hasbro themselves had issued a press release saying, "It is with profound sadness that we announce the passing of an extraordinary leader and dear friend, Brian Goldner. Brian will be deeply missed by the entire Hasbro family. In loving memory." We posted a news burst surrounding all the details in the press release, which you can watch now, or just click on the link below to read it yourself. This is devastating news, and our thoughts go out to his family, friends and colleagues at this extremely difficult time. I actually had the great pleasure of meeting Mr. Goldner last year at the Hasbro preview event. He was gracious enough to stop when I flagged him down, take a picture and have a quick chat in the street, despite being extremely busy. I was really surprised actually at how friendly he was considering the situation at the time, and the fact that he stayed there and stopped for a long period of time to just discuss with me things about the G.I. Joe movie that was coming at the time, the figures that I'd seen. He asked me my genuine ideas on what he thought about the classified figures, and we had a little chat in the middle of the street and again he was kind of, there was a few people around him so they were moving from one section to another section, but he just took that moment to just kind of chat with me, and I thought that was like really cool. Like I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting to talk to him for anything like about 3 or 4 minutes, which is what it turned out to be. And I'm genuinely sad that I won't get that pleasure again. So rest in peace, Brian, from all of us at the Full Force, and all of our thoughts go out to the family, obviously, at this very hard time.
I just think it is very sad. I definitely think that he had an interest in Hasbro's in-house brands, and that was a good thing for a lot of us. So
yeah.
It's just very, very sad situation. He passed so quickly after going on medical leave that, I just worry about how the last year has been on people and the difficulty of the stress that he must have been experiencing, which is unlike anything for so many people across the last year and a half, myself included. As far as my life goes, the last year and a half has been one of my most stressful years. Yeah. So I can only imagine being in his position, and if he was having problems for a while, I think there would be some extra stress on him to stick in there, and maybe that would have been, you know, something that complicated things. And I could just only imagine.
Yeah, I was going to say I can't even imagine that. Like, you know, again, everyone's had a pretty tough couple of years, haven't they? Really, like, and you know, we've lost people in that time. We've lost. Yeah. You know, we've personally, Kate and I, we've lost, you know, Max, our little dog, and also, like, you know, members of the family and all that kind of stuff. So we've had some, you know, some seriously like rough times in the last couple of years, and also like not just that, but like, you know, the time's just been difficult. It's been a really hard thing to navigate. And obviously we do this show really, sometimes I think I've done this show honestly just therapy, just to kind of talk about something else and focus on the hobby and have something like kind of meaningful and happy to kind of chat about. And, you know, I'm not saying it's all down to Brian Goldner, but obviously he had a large hand in my enjoyment of what Hasbro have been putting out in the last couple of years too. So, you know, like, and obviously getting to meet him and realize like he was just a really nice, genuine dude. And, you know, I don't know, you know, what everyone else's experience has been with Brian in those kind of situations, but mine was certainly a positive one. And then when you know, I look at like some of the things people have been posting about him on like socials and stuff, and everyone seems to be like, you know, mourning it. So, you know, it's you know, this isn't one of those, I don't know, like disingenuine things where we're just kind of saying someone's passed away. Like it really kind of sucks. And obviously there's you know, there's more to it than just us losing somebody who was at Hasbro. It's, you know, the family, I think, you know, that must be so difficult now. I mean, what on earth must they be thinking? I can't even begin to imagine. So yeah, rubbish, awful news. But you know, like I said, you know, all our thoughts go out to the family, and rest in peace, Brian. Right, into shout-outs, and firstly I want to shout out Ben and Mark from Skeletron, who came on the show yesterday, and we did a little interview about funding and everything, so they're really happy, obviously, because, you know, 207441, as it's sitting at the moment, very, very happy from their point of view. Pat, any shout-outs, buddy?
Shout out to Philip, as usual. I am late getting a lot of things to him, as usual, so I feel bad for that, and appreciate his patience.
Oh, he doesn't.
And shout out to the toy department in Cincinnati. I have been sorting through. Well, they should be shouting out to me right now.
I was going to say this isn't a shout out.
Bazillion of their GI Joes.
This is you venting, isn't it? At this point now, how many GI Joes?
Emphasis on the shout.
Yeah. Shout out to toy department. Yeah, so they've forced Pat to sift through thousands of modern era G.I. Joe figures.
Yeah, and shout out to my brother for helping me through it. It's been tremendous.
That's the actual shout out right there. That's the real shout out. Okay, then switch on over then. And as always, big shout out to all the family and to my wonderful wife, Kate. Love you all. We're all very happy with the Roboskull thing, as I've just mentioned already. So yeah, that's going to be a running theme for the next 29 days. 29 days, unreal. Big shout out to Brian Sauer for the new awesome Tiger Force Full graphics, which are just beautiful. I think these are my favorite graphics actually at the moment on the show. I know we've had lots, and that's saying something really, because we've had about 30 different types of graphics already. So big shout out to Brian, you're doing amazing work. And also related to Brian, some Assembly Required updates. Now, Codename Iowa have been busy posting some really cool things up for the upcoming Assembly Required in November on the 6th the 6th of November. I don't know why I said it like that. That's just how I said it. Including 3 new posters to go with the other brilliant Ninja Force posters. We've got Bushido, we've got Banzai, and we've got Snake Eyes in Pat's second favourite version design. It's not, is it? What is your second favorite Snake Eyes design?
Oh, that's a really good question. As far as you're just talking vintage figures?
Mm-hmm. Actually, no. All designs from Snake Eyes in the universe.
Now you've made it difficult. Why did I have to ask? I could have just hidden in the vintage era.
I think Retaliation sits up there with me still. I think the Retaliation Snake Eyes is one of my favorite ever designs for Snake Eyes.
It is a really great Snake Eyes. The sculpt on that figure is excellent. That's just a really good. The Retaliation line is super interesting because it starts off with, like, Roadblock with those weird permanent things in his hands, but then it ends with
Crimson Guard.
The best version of Storm Shadow and Cobra Commander. So many perfect, great figures, and Quinn is in there. The end of that toy line is some of the best stuff that was put out in the modern era. And it started off a little rocky with that weird Duke with the gigantic
5-point of articulation vehicle drivers and so on.
And so you bring up that toy line and people complain about it. And it's like, no, wait. That's the best stuff.
I would say the pros outweigh the cons. And I think, for me, cons were things like you said, like those things you mentioned, the Roblox figure initially, the lack of articulation in the drivers, and then the packaging. I think that was it for me in terms of the cons. Everything else I thought was really, the actual figures, that Lady J that came with 400 rifles.
Yeah.
It was
that's real fun to sort. Trust me. Find those everywhere.
What I liked about that was like getting a Marauder delivery. Do you know what I mean? It was like you got a figure she's got a gun, and then you've got a Marauder delivery on top of it.
Duke as well, because Duke was essentially an army builder. He came with that alternate head, and you could just buy 100 of those if you could find them. But I think
the Retaliation Trooper was really fun as well.
It was
Mohawk
and and they did him in two different colors with a tan or blue.
Yeah.
I think though that people have a tendency to think of the first year of figures, because Retaliation was 2012, 2013 because of the delay in the movie.
Oh god, yeah.
So the things that were kind of on the shelves and lingering there for a year are what people tend to think of, and all of those were based on concept stuff for the movie and not the movie itself. And then once the movie stuff started actually coming out, and then you got all the supplemental stuff like Budo.
Oh,
how cool is that Budo figure?
My God, I forget there was so many good figures in there. I remember getting a couple of the waves in one go. I think from Dave Tree, all the cool stuff at the time. And I got the box in, and it was the first. It was because obviously there was that delay, wasn't it? Like you say. And then all of a sudden it was two waves of product just opened up, and it was just Crimson Guard, Budo, Cobra Commander, Snake Eyes, Ultimate, Night Viper. Oh my god, there was so much good stuff in there. I mean, it wasn't, it wasn't the all-rounder like Pursuit of Cobra was, which had new packaging art, which was amazing. And you turn it around and you've got beautiful diorama shots, and you've got storyline attached to it. So there was all other cool stuff surrounding Pursuit of Cobra. It kind of made it an all-round brilliant line of figures. Whereas Retaliation, it was really just rip the stuff out and just get to the figures, because they were the highlight of it all.
Yeah, the packaging really wasn't great for Retaliation. I was not a fan of it. I think that if they had the perfect packaging to go along with some of those perfect figures, it would have been a huge boost for it. And I still think that some people overlook those. If you're a 4-inch collector, you really need to dig into that Retaliation line, because that's some of the best stuff. But how did we get on talking about that? We were looking
one last thing I will say. One last thing I'll shout out Paddy and Brian as well, because they've been posting updates about their Total Retaliation, or their Total Action Force book, which is just beautiful. They got proofs in of the covers. I'll come back to Assembly Required, don't worry. But I'll say this right now, because obviously they also love that Retaliation line, because they did a whole book about it called Total Retaliation.
Yeah, they definitely didn't miss how cool it was.
Exactly, which you can only really get, I think, on the secondary market now. But I tell you what, if you got in that book, you're a happy camper, because it's beautiful. And I just know that I just love everything they put out. I love every book they put out. Total Hacks is beautiful and full of great stories from Paddy as well. I read that from cover to cover, that Total Hacks book, and it built my world around the boss fight figures, and that has added so much more to those figures for me, Paddy's storytelling. So I love that. And like I say, if you haven't got one, get it on the secondary market. Probably expensive as hell now, but nothing I can do about that. Sorry, it's been how many years? But yeah, if you Action Force, Total Action Force coming out, beautiful. Wanted to give them a shout out, because we don't talk about them enough, and they've done great work, and they've been updating everybody very often and regularly. And that book's going to be gorgeous, trust me. I will, sorry, Pat. I was talking about assembly required, and we got onto retaliation, and now we've lost everything. On top of those beautiful posters that we were talking about, sneak peeks here at the 2022 Cell Pop calendar and Cell Pop card backs included in the gear kits. For the calendar, each month will feature a Sunbow cartoon-style Joe or Cobra on 6x9 cardback size shaped pages, and will be included in the Captain kit. For the Cell Pop card backs, these two-sided beauties are printed in full colour on 24-point cardstock and die cut to match the classic Joe figures. You can order yours now for pickup at the show on November 6th. I've got links in the description for those as well, so you can jump on that. And finally, from Assembly Required, because they really have been busy putting stuff out this last week, really. They posted really cheeky, sneaky teaser images of one of their exclusive figures. We can't say too much, but we can tell you that it's Ninja related and in partnership with Marauder Inc. More to come very soon. What do you think that is?
Ninja Force somebody. I think that I see the hood here, so it's definitely a hooded character. So it's probably not a reference to Ninja Force Snake Eyes. Maybe it's like a Jinx. Would that be? I don't know.
Just out of interest, do we know? Because I think I know.
I don't know. I have no idea.
We are truly speculating here. I'm just going to be clear to everyone. Full disclosure on this show. Even though I lie to you, I tend to tell you when I'm lying to you. So at least that's a thing. That's a thing, right? So yeah, this is all we can talk about right now. We can only say that it's Ninja related and in partnership with Marauder Inc. But Pat, yeah, I like your shout of Jinx, but I don't know what it is, and I can't tell you.
It could be honestly, it could be an original character too, because they've done that. They've done that a lot. So
well, if you look back at what they have done, they do tend to do their own original characters pretty much every time, I believe.
Yeah, so I'm going to change my guess, and I'm going to guess that it's going to be an original character.
And you're going to give it.
Wondering what color. I guess if we were going to speculate on anything, we could speculate on what color it's going to be, since these are black and white photos.
I laugh if it's grey chrome and black. We're like, yeah, it's definitely a black and white photo. No, we just took it against the wall, which is like a really dull grey colour. Yeah, you're right. I think there's going to be some colour involved here. I mean, it's Ninja Force, isn't it? Ninja Force is all about beautiful colour. If anything, I know the card backs are pink. The figures are Chabang, yellow and blue, Bushido, white, blue, and bits of red in there. You've got Nunchuck in that gorgeous green and black camouflage. There's a lot of Snake Eyes has got that electric blue in him. It's some really good stuff in there.
It would be interesting if this was some sort of shout out to the Red Ninja that inexplicably was not in red.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It's going to be the colourful ninja in black and white and chrome. That's what it'll be. Yeah, it was so funny how that red ninja is just like blue, pink, some other weird colour. I can't even describe it. Couldn't even describe what colour to start with before changing the shade of it. I wouldn't be able to find it on a Photoshop colour wheel. Do you know what I mean? It's hilarious. Anyway, yeah. So that's all the assembly required shout-outs. Big shout-out to Andrew Franks for hooking me up with a Breaker and the Ram cycle. I don't have the figure on me. That's on display, but I do have the box to show you. So there you go. Look, there's a box of Breaker and the Ram with no Breaker or Ram in it. But no, that's beautiful. I'll throw some pictures up that I've taken of Breaker and the Ram, and it's so good. So the one I'm waiting on through Pulse, Andrew has decided to wait for that. So that's what's happened. He's basically made a little swap with me because he got his first. He wanted me to have it first. So thank you so much, Andrew. You're a very, very thoughtful man, and I really, really appreciate that. I'm also not going to give him mine. I'm going to hide it and just tell him I never got it. I'm not going to do that. Could you imagine if I was just like, yeah, I want two, mate, sorry. Don't even
just
pay it.
Your stuff and it's like, I see two of them. It's like, yeah, but the one from Pulse never showed up. So you just don't get one. This is the second one I found.
Oh, I ordered this from Entertainment Earth, mate. I got this from Big Bad Toy Store, so sorry. Nothing I can do about it. I got this from Nick. Nick sent me this from the UK, so it cost a lot more. You wouldn't want to buy it because it's more expensive. And that's not true either. It tends to be cheaper through Nick somehow, and even with the shipping on top of it. Nick he's a good man. He's a good friend of mine. So thank you, Nick at In Demand Toys. You're an absolute star. To Eric Aranya for taking me to the Toy Vault warehouse sale last weekend. I ended up getting some G.I. Joe comics and magazines that used to belong to Justin Bell, believe it or not. And also, I'll just show you these on camera. There's some really cool ones. So yeah, we go to this Toy Vault warehouse thing, which we've done a couple of times now because Eric's really friendly with the guys at Toy Vault, and honestly, they've got a couple of locations, and we tend to go to them quite a lot. They're really cool toy stores, like big, full of stock, things that you're looking at going, I should have just come here and bought them. Like, why was I waiting for Pulse to send me that? Why was I waiting for, that pre-order to come in? Like, it's just, they're amazing. And while we were at the Toy Vault warehouse sale, they have this outdoor kind of event. So it's, generally safe and people keeping their distance and stuff, which is good. But they have these tables set up in a big open car park kind of set up with all these boxes full of product. And yeah, all stuff that's been in their warehouse for donkey's years. So they're just selling it for cheap. And Justin had obviously been there not too long ago. I think when we did the it was over the weekend of doing assembly required mobile on mass online rally when we did the Vamp videos. Pat, he'd sold them a bunch of stuff that weekend, big U-Haul truck he brought down and everything, and dumped a lot of stuff. And within there are some of these gorgeous little G.I. Joe magazines. This was only $1, I think, that he sold it for. So I picked up that and this colouring book. So thanks, Justin. I appreciate that. And when I posted it to him, he said, "Yeah, they were probably in there. I think they're mine." He knows fully well that they're his. And the big version of the Marvel issue 1, the
Treasury Edition.
Treasury Edition. That's the one. Treasury Edition. So
whenever I was little, I actually believed that was the only version of #1 because I didn't see G.I. Joe #1, and then there was that, and then there was #2 and #3.
Did you just think, oh man, they've done like a special, first issue massive version of it?
Yeah, maybe that isn't how it played out, because the first one I ever picked up off the newsstands was #3. And then I remember my brother getting that for Christmas. And that probably would have been after I had #3. So I don't know when we got that. But that's what I thought, was that was just how issue #1 was. That, to get attention to the brand, release issue #1 as a giant comic book.
As a broadsheet, as we call them in the UK. Another thing as well, while I was at the Toy Vault, Justin had sold them all of his containment units that he'd he'd put custom labels on everything as well. So he had all these big cabinets with little slots for figures and accessories, and every single one of them has a G.I. Joe code name on them. It's astonishing. There's a picture of me standing next to it that Eric took, which I'll post up on here. But I sent that to Justin as well and was just like, look, all of your organizational stuff is here as well. So he was getting a kick out of that. We also popped into a couple of Targets on the way home, because that's what you do, innit? When you go outside, you take advantage of that aspect. We hit up a few Targets, and I managed to grab a few Series 4 Micro Machine sets, including...
Oh, nice.
This is the Micro Drag Race Classics, which, again, it's been so hard collecting this line in full. Now, I've been mad on Micro Machines my entire life, and these new ones I just fell in love with immediately. Obviously, there's a slight difference in how they're made to the vintage ones, but they've got a very similar charm. And I just think they're gorgeous. And obviously they've been kind of pushing them out in the weirdest way. I guess COVID has had some real issues, has caused some real issues with their shipping, their manufacture. So we're getting Series 4. Still haven't really seen Series 3 in full in stores. I know a few of it's been out there.
Did you find 5?
5 is now out, and I don't think I've got any Series 5 yet. So yeah. Oh, what I did get though, obviously, like I said, you've got this one. And I managed to get one of the Series 4 haulers, which I really like a lot of the time, just for the little exclusive. The vehicle exclusive is usually so cool, and I love that one. I think it's beautiful. So I still have to get the other hauler for that. That's for that one. But I also got, while we were out, Corvette Raceway. Now this is sorry, I'll put my headphones on first so I can actually hear Pat interacting with me. That would just be awkward and rude of me to just ignore you the whole time. But yeah, you've got. Let me kind of change my setup here so you can actually see it clearly. So yeah, we've got this beautiful transformable Corvette Raceway, which again comes with a cool exclusive vehicle, which is really cool. And this is what it looks like when you bust it open. So I've still got to do that. What I'm going to do, because I do this every single time I get something new, Micro Machines, especially playset vibe, I get all of the playsets out, including the Supervan City, which is just one of my favorite things. It's so much fun. All of the mini playsets that I have, the cargo plane, etc., and I'm going to lay them all out, connect them all up, everything, put every vehicle I've got out, put all of them on there too, and just enjoy the visual of that. So yeah, really cool Corvette Raceway, and managed to pick that one up as well. So yeah, happy with.
Does that have a series associated with it? Or because some of the larger things that I saw in Target, I noticed that they're not really putting a series number on anymore.
No. So what I've noticed is, I mean, the other thing is, even if they are part of a series, which I don't think they are, you get these little inserts, which I've studied. I've studied these inserts in a very similar way to how I studied the back of G.I. Joe and Action Force kind of cards and stuff. You get these little things per series. So it'll say, like, in this case, S2 at the top there to kind of signify what series it is. And Supervan City has been on every one of these. So I don't think it's not so much a series as it is the key of the key
of the
brand.
Okay, I thought Supervan City did say like a Series 2 or something on it. Maybe I just never noticed.
Well, it would have been Series 1 because it actually came out first with all the other things. So I think it would have had Series 1 on it, and then they've probably just taken that off going forward because maybe they're thinking now that the way that the stuff's being made and manufactured and produced and actually shipped and delivered is series just doesn't make any sense right now. It's just they should just be getting stuff out. I think they're just kind of they've turned into just pushing things out, you know. But yeah, Series 3, for example, I don't have a single Series 3 thing other than the haulers. I think the cargo transport is Series 2 as well, isn't it? Yeah. So that's funny because the
you don't have Series 3?
No, because I was confused because it came out around the same time, but backdated the series to the previous series. So, like, I remember looking at it when Adam sent it to us, and I'm like, "How is that Series 2?" And we've only just seen it. So I think it was just because it was held up in its production. But anyway,
okay. That's crazy because Series 5 is showing up.
Exactly. It's all really confusing. And then, of course, you've got branded series, which doesn't really have a number attached to it either. Have you seen that? So, like, they've released a bunch of things that just don't have a series attached to them. Because this was one I'd never, ever, ever seen before. 8-pack, right? No series attachment. And it just says GM Bugatti on the top.
Was that done for some sort of GM place? Where was that for sale? That looks like some kind of exclusive.
This is the thing again, because it's so difficult to kind of pinpoint where this stuff is and what it comes out in, and there was no information about it other than it being on I want to say like their store, their like Amazon store. So it might be like an Amazon exclusive or something, but yeah, really, really odd that it just appears. But isn't that cool?
Yeah, that is cool. And that isn't something that would fit right into one of the brick and mortar store mods. You know, you can't just pop an 8-pack. I mean, they would find space for it, but it just seems weird to release a single 8-pack and move on. So I'm wondering, maybe that is an Amazon something.
Who knows? Hopefully I'll have more information about that. I might just tweet them and ask them because they're usually quite good at getting back to people like that. But yeah, I just love the fact that, I don't know, you know, I just go out and I see like a new set every now and again, and it's just like, cool, I'll grab that. Anyway, other than my Micro Machines fetish, also grabbed the T-Rex and Jeep with Tim from Jurassic Park set as well while we were at Toys R Us. Toys R Us?
Yeah, I still need to open mine.
That was a slip of the tongue. No, while we were at Target. Yeah, so that I think I had a pre-order on and that I cancelled because I found it in store instead, and I couldn't be bothered to wait for 25 more years for it. So I thought, I'm just going to get it now while it's in front of me. That's kind of, to be honest, that's more a present for Kate too, because we're both kind of like team collecting the Jurassic Park stuff. We're actually going to be building a diorama display on top of one of our bookcases, and it's going to be like the Jurassic Park gate with trees and some electric fence kind of stuff, and then grassy bottom, and it's going to go the entire length of a 4 square top IKEA bookshelf, and then we're going to have all of the legacy Jurassic Park figures from the Jurassic World line, like the Jeep and the 2 different Jeeps. I
just got my Arnold actually in the mail. Did you get Arnold?
I missed out because I actually went to order him and he was sold out real quick. So I was a bit down about that. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to get one some other way, like a secondary market scenario, because it looks so bloody good.
It is one of those situations where I opened up the package and I thought, kind of wish I had 2, because I really don't want to take it out of the package.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of appeal to the package.
Oh, you don't have the Dennis Nedry though, do you? In the can, the Barbasol.
The Barbasol? No, I don't have that one. I tried twice to get that.
That was a stressful day, because that was on the same day as Target and G.I. Joe pre-order, wasn't it?
It was. So I was focusing on G.I. Joe, and then I didn't end up getting Nedry.
I remember that, and desperately trying. I had to change my log. I had to create a different login because it kept erroring on the one I was on, because it was saying like you need to be logged in. So I'd log in, and then it would be like there was like an error it kept coming up with. So I'm like, what the fuck? So I changed, I created a new account effectively that day and had to go in that way, and that's the only way I could get him. So but managed to get him eventually. Anyway, that T-Rex and Jeep set is adorable and I love it so much. So that's going to be like a fun aspect of the dio we're doing. So the dio's also going to have like a little road track on it as well, so we can put the Jeeps on there too. It's going to be amazing. The
Arnold set actually has a lot of lines straight from the movie.
Oh, I know, yeah. Like, hold on to your butts. Doesn't he say that on there?
Yeah, it's probably not randomized. I think it cycles through.
Mm.
There's a switch. You open up the cover of it, and and I can tell that there's more playset underneath the package.
Yeah. So
I kind of want to look at it. But maybe at some point I will open it in a way that I can return it to the package, but it's never quite the same.
Yeah, I go at that sometimes, like I'm in a laboratory with blooming, like dealing with like harsh chemicals or something. I've got like a really sharp blade to cut through the tape to then and then I'm not sure if you do this as well as me. I'll use this Funko Pop that I'm going to be shouting out in a second, but I'll do this when I open a box. I've got like a knife or like a really like flat, sharp thing, you've seen a knife before, right? That ain't a knife. So something like that. And what I'll do is I'll go into the fold like that, and I'll push right up against the thing so it comes out comfortably. Do you see that? How that just kind of nicely pops out? Because what I've found in the past is when I try and just take this thing out, this rips. It folds around here and doesn't quite look good anymore. So I've even doing that, you get the same problem. Like, no matter how careful you are, and I'm doing it on this side, and it doesn't want to come as easy. So I tend to have to be like really careful with this stuff, and it still doesn't make much of a difference. There we go. So I've managed to get that out without flexing or busting up the corners. So that's a little technique if people don't, never use that. I'm sure people have got other ways of doing it. But yeah, and also that avoids that annoying fold that always happens there when you try and like bust it out by hand. But yeah. Shout out to to Walmart for this. Sending me the Cobra bat. Oh,
you pre-ordered it online?
I certainly did.
Yeah, they they've been weird about those bats. They showed up in stores a couple of weeks ago, and in a lot of Walmarts, they sat there for 1 week and then went on clearance.
Typical, innit? It's been happening. Yeah. It's been happening so much that the thing is, I tend to try not to play that risky game, I would call it. It does feel like a risk sometimes, doesn't it? Where you're like, do I just hold out until retail? Which is, I've seen a lot of the things that I did want at retail eventually, but you're just never quite sure if you want to play that game with a lot of stuff. And like I didn't play that game with Arnold, unfortunately. I just missed out on that one because it was sold out so quickly. But yeah, hopefully I'll be able to get that on the secondary. But
well, it could be that they release him to retail too, because obviously Nedry is a completely different figure. Philip actually pointed out to me that it wasn't even the same. It's a different expression on the face.
Yeah, there's a lot of differences.
So it's not the same figure at all that's at retail. But
do you think the actor who plays Dennis Nedry would realise he had so many action figures out the last couple of years? Like the Amber Collection 1, 2, 3 maybe different releases for the 4-inch figure, I want to say.
I think it's just the 2. There's the one at Target. There's the one at Target, and then there's the Barbasol one. Yeah.
Is the one at Target the one in the pack? With the Dilophosaurus and the Jeep. Yeah, we've got that.
Yeah.
That's out. We actually busted that open. Kate's got that out already. Yeah, but yeah, okay, cool. There you go then. That is all the shout-outs, I think, at this point. Pat, I think we've come to the end eventually. This has gone on a long time, but I think a lot of it's going to be cut out. Anyway.
We've gone on 2 hours of shout-outs.
Yeah, I think that's what happened, isn't it? Blimey. We had to shout out Retaliation for an hour. I don't know why we did that.
Well, because I never said that it was probably version 1 Snake Eyes. I'm just going to go with the original. Finally give you my answer for he's my second favorite.
V1. Amazing. Still completely wrong, but we'll move on from that. Yes, so of course we continue to support the LGBTQ plus community and always stand fast with the Asian and Pacific Islander communities in saying stop Asian hate. We do not discriminate against any minority and want the show to be a fun and safe environment for anybody, no matter their background. To all our patrons, listeners and viewers, and I'm going to throw in Roboskull Mark II backers as well, because there's probably a pretty strong Venn diagram.
There's over 500 of them now because we've been talking for a while.
208, 825. Unreal. 501 backers. That's the entire Full Force listener group. It's not, is it? It's way less than that. So thanks to everybody that, obviously listens, supports, interacts, and also pledges in this case. We really, truly appreciate all the support for the show and obviously for Skeletron. So thank you so much. And Pat, my man, thank you for jumping on. I know it's been a tough one that I then dragged 2 hours out of you for. I apologize.
That's okay. It's always fun.
Yeah.
We spent some of the time just kind of chatting. I doubt that you're posting a 2-hour video.
You wait and see, pal. There'll be that whole moment I walk away and it'll just be dead air. Like nothing happening. Although you were probably like swearing at me or calling me horrible names while I was out of earshot, weren't you?
Of course, as usual.
Yeah. Okay. Shout out to the Chief, an old mate of mine, Chief Stride of Talking Joe fame. When I used to do Talking Joe, the show with him, there were times when I'd have to go off and do something or whatever, and come back and grab a I don't know, some sort of thing that I'd forgotten before the show started. And during the recording, while I was away, he would make up songs about me and hope that I would hear it when it came to do the edit. He wouldn't tell me, he wouldn't say anything about it. And then I'd come back and I'd do the edit and I'd be like, hang on, there's loads of audio here in the time I was away. And then I'd listen to these songs where he'd like done a funny rhyme or a rap. And it was just hilarious. So I want from now on, Pat, whenever I have to go away and do something.
There was one time you walked away and I redid my intros. Like I went through a bunch of different ones. I don't know if you ever found it.
How did I miss that? You're going to have to tell me what episode that was. I have
no idea what episode that was in.
It's all right. I'll just go back and listen to every single recording we've ever done, which is only, I think at this point, 400 and something gig.
That's not that much. You can get through it.
Can you believe, Pat, we have done the amount of stuff we've done? in the last 2 years.
Has it been 2 years already that we've been doing it? How long have we been doing the weekly?
Well, if you kind of take into I just mean like 2020 and 2021. It's actually been. Okay. It's actually been. This is episode 52. 2 episodes ago was our year anniversary. So we've been doing this for now a year and 2 weeks on the weekly.
Wow, that's crazy.
Amazing, isn't
it?
Yeah,
no. Time got away. I had no idea.
We were so much younger back then. We were like a year and 2 weeks younger. Actually, it's probably a bit more than that because we had a couple of double episodes. I'm not sure if I'm counting them or not. I don't know. I'll have to do the numbers, but I'm pretty sure 50 was our year because there was we missed a couple of weeks, didn't we, where I was otherwise engaged. So, yeah. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the longest episode I think we've ever recorded.
With only 4 topics.
I know, I'm like, it's only going to be quick, guys, because I've got something else to do before this. Typical McLeod. Yeah. Well, here we are. That brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you for watching the Full Force Weekly. Massive thank you to my awesome co-host, Patrick Notpicard Stewart.
Thanks again.
So I don't usually pause there, do I? See you next time. And as always, after 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Roboskull Mark 2. Competition time! Last week we announced that the lovely people at Cubles were giving away a full set of these awesome G.I. Joe paperboard figures to one lucky listener viewer. We asked you to give us a character you would like to see in the G.I. Joe Cubles range. Our lucky winner is Hooded Cobra Commander for Once a Man Cobra Commander. Congratulations to HCC, we will get those awesome Cubles out to you as soon as they arrive at Full Force HQ. Thanks to everyone for entering the competition, better luck next time, and as always, Full Force. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @TheFullForce, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/TheFullForce, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of those platforms with feedback and questions. We also have a Patreon page, so if you want to show your support for the show, see your name up in lights on these videos, or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/TheFullForce podcast, or click on the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force!